Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Newsgram. Eloise Bartlett's lifelong dream of writing a book has finally come true, though its inspiration came from a series of tragedies that she never wished for. Brace yourself, because today we're going to delve into some highly sensitive areas, including Eloise Bartlett's challenges in the face of suicide, cancer, and domestic violence.
Can you imagine being at work, receiving a phone call from your daughter saying there's no power in the house because she had tried to kill herself? On the 21st of July 2006, my eldest daughter stood in a bathtub and dropped a switched-on bar heater into the water.
The worst phone call that I could possibly imagine. Of course, grateful that the circuits blew, but then 1 year later, tragedy struck again.
In July 2007, I was diagnosed with cancer.
Dealing with bad news is never easy, but thankfully we all have an inner strength that we can tap into to help us deal with these kinds of personal challenges and fears. Despite the diagnosis, Eloise was not yet pushed to the breaking point, but she was also trying to deal with all of this and her abusive husband, so something had to give.
And then the following year, also in July 2008, I left my mentally abusive husband. I decided that I'd had enough and I needed to stand up for myself and leave him.
A bold decision that resulted in him stalking her and threatening her life. And if you're following the timeline here, you'll see that everything seems to happen to Eloise in the month of July.
Yes, that's right. In fact, It Happened in July because a friend of mine, I was telling her about my book I was writing. It had a different title at that time. And she said to me, "Wow, funny how everything happened in July." And I decided to change the title.
It Happened in July is a fictional story, but it is based on the real-life events in her life. In fact, Eloise Bartlett is a pen name, but her stories are all true.
Yep. Basically, the book is about my life. It's a pretty honest account of what happened. I was advised to change all the names and that sort of thing, but it's a pretty true account of what was happening at the time.
The main characters are now named Wendy and Dave, but the decision for Wendy to leave her mentally abusive husband in July of 2008, that was very real.
Very early in my separation, it became obvious that I would need to get a restraining order. So I started keeping a notebook to record conversations and events as they happened to report to the police. So I had a good body of evidence. I also recorded how I felt at the time and everything that happened. The notebook actually helped me to start writing my book.
And so, It Happened in July was born. If you need a book to share at your next book club, one that's thought-provoking and maybe inspires some conversation, then this just might be the one. It's based on real-life stories about someone facing tough challenges and coming out stronger on the other side.
It takes a lot of courage to leave an abusive relationship. I hope to inspire women in a similar situation to be able to reclaim their lives and take charge of them. To be in control, not control. Domestic violence has to end. And to remember, most important thing, where do you want to be in 5 years' time?
The book talks a great deal about her relationship, and there's a good reason for that. She wants women in a similar situation to understand that while it may not feel like it, you do have options, and you can control your own destiny and be happy in the long run. In the case of domestic violence, it starts with a restraining order, and I know that the first response you're going to have is, well, he's not going to abide by one of those. But you have to start somewhere, and having the law on your side, that's a great first step.
If you're thinking of getting a domestic violence restraining order, you need to keep a record of what's happening, dates, times and places. The police need these to take them to court, so the domestic restraining order can be issued, and then it can be taken to court a bit later and granted by the judge, and then that gives the woman hopefully a couple of years of safety for the husband to cool down and not be so angry. When I was reporting one of the breaches of the restraining order at a local police station, a woman came in to report that her ex-husband had actually broken into her unit and stolen the computer that she kept her notes on. So that's pretty important that you're able to access your information. You've got to keep it safe.
And I can't tell you how many authors have created their first book from journals they kept on their nightstand. Just saying. Eloise has since moved, and she met a new husband that she loves very much. And it's not giving away too much here to say there can be a happy ending.
Yes, I have the freedom to walk the streets without looking over my shoulder. I'm happy to leave the front and back doors open now, whereas at one time they would have been locked tight. I can walk down the street and take my dog for a walk. I can go down the beach and have fun there. I can go down the shops too and just go shopping and not worry if anyone's following me or likely to come up to me at any moment to start intimidating me.
Can you hear it in her voice? Eloise lives in Australia now. She's surrounded by sunshine and beautiful beaches. Her story is a powerful reminder that healing is possible. I'm sure it took her many years to stop dreading the month of July, but eventually the fear does pass. I want to leave you with this. If you or someone you know is facing domestic violence, struggling with thoughts of suicide, or going through a serious health challenge, you need to know that you're not alone. There is help out there, and you are stronger than you think. Eloise was able to reclaim her life, her safety, and her joy. And through her book, It Happened in July, she's helping others do the same thing. It's available now online wherever you like to buy books, or you can get it from her website, ithappenedinjuly.com. Thanks for listening to this edition of Newsgram from webtalkradio.com.